So what if I told you that HIFIMAN created a new in-ear monitor that is the successor of the very popular RA2000. This is the HIFIMAN Svanar, a flagship EM with one dynamic driver designed to be the next in your collection of flagships. As it was the case with the original RA2000, this Svanar comes in a beautiful package, very heavy actually. And here are the EMs. They have a gold-plated inner part and a silver, I think, plated. There is not a lot of documentation on this outer part. The cable is detachable and based on the 2-pin connector, although the cable is not quite universal. So they have an adapter for other cables because the 2-pin connector is a bit shallow and slightly different from other cables. This being said, it will be important to replace the original cable because the cable is actually one of the few, or rather the only thing that actually was a downside to this Svanar. So if most products need to have a downside or something that isn't quite perfect, with this Svanar from the start, that is the original cable, because it is this HIFIMAN cable, which is a bit tangle prone, is covered in a slightly sticky rubber and has this connector which is angled and which some people just didn't have as a favorite. So like all HIFIMAN products, the cable can be replaced with a better option. I have stated this in my HA1000 Stealth version review and basically in every single other review that I've done to date. But yeah, this Svanar. This has to be probably the most comfortable flagship EM in the world, like the most comfortable one I tested to date. The only one that is similar in comfort is the Dita Perpetua, which also has a very smooth and rounded inner part. But this Svanar is a bit more ergonomic in design and actually slightly smaller, also slightly lighter, and the default cable of the Dita Perpetua, although is better, is thicker and heavier. So you have to replace the default cables of both this Svanar and the Dita Perpetua. Neither isn't perfect from the factory. Wearing this Svanar is really comfortable. They sit very naturally in my ear and there is a lot of space left. So they would be perfect even for people with smaller ears. You shouldn't have any problem wearing them. They isolate you with about 20 to 25 decibels of passive noise isolation and they don't really leak. So you can blast death metal or any other music in them and nobody around won't have a clue. The technology inside is a single dynamic driver and HIFIMAN is one of the few companies that I trust with creating a single dynamic driver design. So while most companies try to compensate for the lack of technological innovation by adding a ton of balanced armatures and trying to make them sound well together, HIFIMAN said, no, we have to design a single dynamic driver that is perfect. And this is what they've done with this Svanar. This EM costs 2,000 euros or 2,000 US dollars. The euro versus US dollar is pretty much equal at the moment I'm filming this video review. So HIFIMAN actually decided to not invest in a ton of balanced armatures and I'm happy that they did this because the dynamic driver is the one most coherent sounding thing that I've heard. It's like this EM is made for coherency, for musicality, and it sounds perfect with basically everything. There is not a single music style that doesn't work with the HIFIMAN Svanar. They simply sound beautiful. Adding to that the comfort of wearing them, which is perfect. You can actually just wear them and have them in your ears for like forever. I don't ever feel the need to take them off. Some tip rolling is needed though, because you can find better tips than the one included in the package. I found the best comfort with some no brand, just transparent silicone tips, which I think came from some Hi-Fi IEMs. I don't usually record every single tip that I have, but I did find a good comfort with spin fit tips, which of course usually work with most EMs. And the comfort of this Svanar is sublime. It's like you don't even feel that you're wearing them. They are light, they are comfortable. This inner material is very comfortable for my ears. So usually I struggle to find comfort after a few hours of wearing an EM. And this Svanar doesn't give me any struggle. It's just like perfect. They are perfect for long periods of wearing. I have experienced the same with the Dita Perpetua, which is a direct competitor, although the Dita Perpetua is a bit more pricey than this Svanar being priced at 2,000 US dollars, and both are a single dynamic driver EM. So both companies decided that they won't use cheap tricks. They both wanted to get the best sound out of a single dynamic driver. So they optimized the inner acoustics of the chamber, they optimized that driver, and they created a new driver. And I appreciate that. This is what technological advancement feels and looks like. Another interesting alternative to this Svanar is the unique Melody Maven Pro, which uses more drivers to get the sound they have. And using more drivers isn't usually a guaranteed win. So having more drivers doesn't guarantee that something will sound better, because you are basically cutting parts of the sound and you are giving them to other drivers. This usually works for large speakers, and the reason it works is because the large speaker that produces the bass, so to produce the low end, it usually need a larger driver that has more mass and moves slower than the ones that produce the mid-range and the treble. This is why the KLH Model 5 uses 3 different drivers, so that they can have different mass, so they can reproduce different frequencies better. For EMs or in-ear monitors, that is not necessary, because you can produce a very clear sound even in the lows with a small driver, because this is small, it is very close to your ear. You don't need a lot of energy to produce that sound in your ear. This is why it is an in-ear monitor or EM. This is what we call earphones with silicone tips, if it wasn't quite clear from the start. But either way, this Svanar doesn't have any driver flex. It has a ventilation port right next to the cable connector. They have a metallic grill to protect the driver inside from debris and dust. And basically, it is designed to sound like excellent. Like, you usually don't get such an excellent sounding EM. And it is designed to sound excellent with basically all music styles, but it has a special synergy with music like jazz, like classical, stuff that is supposed to sound acoustic. Just like other HIFIMAN headphones, acoustic music sounds beautiful, but this also includes metal and rock. So it's not about electronic guitars not sounding their best, because electronic guitars sound excellent, pop sounds excellent. It's more like most flagship EMs don't really reproduce electronic music quite as well as acoustic music, and that is actually natural, because electronic music doesn't have a lot of information in the mid-range. So you don't need to invest too much to reproduce electronic music in a pleasing way. You just need a good bass and a good treble, so you can ignore other aspects of the sound. While when reproducing acoustic instruments, that is not possible. It is very complicated to produce acoustic instruments accurate. You need a lot of work, and you need to make sure that the driver has good fidelity, low distortion, a good resolution, that it has a pleasing tuning, and that you are not making it sound harsh or metallic. And that is important, because HIFIMAN Svanar has a very natural tuning, which has a neutral, natural type of sound. So it has a good sub bass, it has a strong sub bass, it has a good bass, a slightly warm bass, which is different from the RA2000, which was slightly colder. The mid-range is really sweet, vivid, dynamic and resolute, very detailed. The instrument separation is outstanding. It's like every single instrument is defined very well, while the soundstage is natural toward wide, also has a good depth, so it is well-rounded. You don't feel like it is shallow, you don't feel like it is narrow, it has a natural overall presentation. The upper mid-range is a bit picky, so it has a slight hump in the upper mid-range, which creates a good resonance for pianos, violins, trumpets, female voices. Everything has a closer to you and louder presentation, which helps a lot with more emotional music, with sadder music. And then there is the treble, which has outstanding extension up to the highest registers, but at the same time, most of the energy is in the mid treble. It is not necessarily in the lower treble, so it doesn't come through as hot or as metallic sounding, but the main treble has a good amount of energy. So cymbal crashes always sound natural. They don't sound like they are synthetic, and they never sound like they are in your face, like unnatural kinda. They always sound natural, and they always sound honest to what you'd expect a flagship EM to sound like. Svanar actually competes well to other flagships, so I will be doing a full written review where I will be in-depth comparing the HIFIMAN Svanar to Dita Perpetua, to Unique Melody Maven Pro, to Final Audio A8000 and the other in-ear and earphone flagships that I've reviewed to date. The HIFIMAN Svanar could be considered from the start the most comfortable of them, and I think that is an important aspect to what EMs you go for. For example, so far I have been going for Dita Perpetua because it is comfortable. So I need something that I can place in my ears and I can enjoy for a few hours. I need something that won't feel too large and that won't fatigue me just from wearing it. Something needs to feel comfortable. Then the sound needs to be good, and this is what we will be exploring more in depth in the full written reviews, because those are more serious. I hope that my videos aren't too serious. I'm supposed to bring back the fun in music. Like, I hope you are taking me seriously, because I try my best to share my honest opinion and impression with you. And this is what HIFIMAN Svanar is all about. Sounding natural, sounding honest, and sounding like it should sound. So acoustic guitars, ballads, and music that was recorded in an acoustic environment, especially classical, sounds really as it should. It really has that specific harmonic specific distortion-free sound that you typically hear with acoustic instruments in their nature, while other EMs go for a smoother sound, which typically results in a lower upper mid-range and a lower treble quantity and an enhanced bass. For example, this is what I hear with Dita Perpetua, which has a stronger and bolder bass. That one is better for electronic music, for example, because it has a bolder sound. It has more sub-bass, which I don't think that the Svanar lacks. I don't think they lack in sub-bass. I just think that they have more focus in the mid-range. And the mid-range is harder to do, and well, most instruments are in the mid-range. Even our voices is mostly in the mid-range. I hope that you had a good time at Audiophile Heaven. I hope you'll consider checking out my other videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope we'll see each other really soon. Bye bye.